Good afternoon, YouTube. It is Sunday, March 5th, and I'm coming at you from the rest stop located in Bland County, Virginia. I'm on I-77 southbound, headed towards North Carolina. I had to stop at this rest stop to do my 34-hour reset. It wasn't the place I was wanting, but at least they have bathrooms. That's really all I need. Restroom, because I have a lot of food on board. I actually just bought an air fryer and I've been cooking my own food, and it is a lot cheaper. And to be honest with you, it tastes, I think, better than the truck stops and definitely the fast food I've been eating. For lunch today, I actually had a salad, which was it was very, very refreshing, very tasty. And I make my salads pretty simple. I don't put a whole lot on them. It's a lot of the salad mix. It was a pre-mix, so I had spring greens and like arugula, spinach, things like that. And I put a little bit of croutons on and a little bit of dried cranberry, candied pecan mix, just to kind of give it some texture and some taste and some crunch. But I do like a little bit more than the serving of salad dressing, because I really like for each taste of my salad or each bite of my salad to have some salad dressing on it. So I do put a little bit more salad dressing than really you're supposed to, but that is what it is. But anyway, and I'm kind of a simple guy when it comes to eating anyway. So I usually buy myself 3 proteins. I'll buy chicken, pork chops, and steak is what I got this week. Last week I had chicken, pork chops, and smoked sausage. Then I usually have, for my side, I will usually have like potatoes. That'll give me my starch. I have some little bags of baby yellow potatoes. They actually fry up the best in the air fryer. What I do is I chop them in half. If they are bigger, I will cut them in quarters. Spritz them with a little bit of spray olive oil, put some seasoned salt on them, and I throw them in the fryer first, and I'll let them cook up for probably about 8 to 10 minutes. Then I'll throw my protein in with it. Now with my protein, I've been cutting it up to make sure that I get it all the way cooked through, and not much of anything grosser than raw chicken or raw pork. Now my steak, I'll eat that rare. I like my steak rare because all you have to do is cook the outside anyway. The inside is usually pretty pure, so I do like my steak pretty rare. But in any case, I'll spritz them with the olive oil as well, my protein, while the potatoes are cooking, and I'll sprinkle that with a little seasoned salt or Italian seasoning that I have, or salt and pepper, whatever. And then I keep some condiments in my refrigerator for dipping, whether that be ketchup, barbecue sauce, steak sauce, hot sauce, things like that. And to be honest with you, yeah, the only pain in the ass thing about it is preparing it. And I think what I'm going to start doing is, before I leave, because I can stop at a Walmart about once a week to replenish my supplies. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cooking everything up before I leave, because I'm not home every week. I'm at my terminal, because home for me is about a 5-hour drive from my terminal, and they let me bobtail home and bobtail back up to the terminal, so I ain't complaining. So I will use my air fryer in the terminal to cook up at least all my proteins, just to make that step a little bit easier. Store them in a Ziploc bag in my refrigerator, and then maybe cook up my potatoes fresh, because I just prefer fresh potatoes, and it's super easy. And I also keep little cans of green beans, little cans of baked beans, instant mashed potatoes, and some macaroni and cheese, just in case I want something different as a side. So I definitely have plenty of food on board to be able to do a 34 at a rest stop that doesn't have any services other than a restroom. But so that's okay. So I think today I want to talk a little bit about Trucker GPS. I'm seeing a lot of people out there using trucker GPSs, and but I've never really seen that many videos of people showing how they work, things like that. And but one thing I can tell you is, even though if you have a trucker GPS, you should also have one of these. You see, I bought mine in 2021. That was when I went to CDL school, and it's the Motor Carriers Road Atlas from Rand McNally. To use this, there's an index in the back that will show you, that will have a list of all the cities and states, and you can go to the page where that state is on, and it's on a big graph. So the city might be, you know, let's say you're wanting to find O'Fallon, Missouri. That's right over there by St. Louis. So the index will tell you that O'Fallon is F17 on that page. So you find the Missouri page, go to F17, and you find O'Fallon, Missouri. And I bought this because in CDL school we were doing trip planning, learning all that, and we had to plan multi-state trips. And I bought it so I could take it home to practice, because I was having a little bit of time with my trip planning. Not necessarily the trip plan itself, but like for some reason I kept making the wrong marks on my paper logs. One thing they wouldn't let us do, they wouldn't let us use, was they wouldn't let us use the GPS on our phones or anything like that. They did allow us to use Trucker Path only to find the way stations and truck stops, things like that. But they also showed us how to, you know, there's a book listing all the truck stops as well, but they went in and let us use Trucker Path for that. And I do have the free version of Trucker Path still. I'm just too cheap to pay for the full version because yeah, I just don't think I need it. I have a good GPS, and I have my book. Now, one thing I will tell you about GPS is do not trust it 100%. Okay, even the trucker GPSs will lead you wrong. I've had mine try to lead me wrong a couple of times, and luckily I was able to catch it. Most recently, I was in Atlanta, just a little north of Atlanta, actually, and I was picking up some garage doors. Well, what I should have done was I should have trip planned that by at least looking at my GPS and seeing which route it wanted me to take, because it definitely wanted me to go a route that was not the easiest way. And when I got all the way around to where it wanted me to go, there was a big no truck sign for that road. And I knew that I had to travel like 3 miles or 3 or 4 or 5 miles up that road. So I knew it was a bad idea to take my truck up that road. Now, I have been on roads where there's a no truck sign, but I have to be on it. There was just no other way for me to, you know, usually it's getting to job sites when I was delivering steel utility poles. And it is what it is. You just got to drive down those roads sometimes because they're smack in the middle of a no truck zone. And it's the only way to get the poles there. But anyway, so I see the no truck zone, and I knew that I had 3 miles to go, 3 or 4, 5 miles to go, and decided that's not the best thing for me to do. So I pulled off to where it was safe. I had I had kind of a wide shoulder right there, and I went in and pulled off onto the shoulder. Got out my GPS and you know, zoomed out on the map so I could see where my destination was, and look at all the roads, and I could see, because I knew the road that I was on was good for trucks. I knew that because I was already there. And I found an intersecting highway that took me around to the interstate, and I knew that this highway would be good because it was a U.S. highway or whatever, and you know, I just figured it'd be good for trucks, and if it wasn't, I'd figure out when I got there, because really at that point, there wasn't a whole lot that I can do other than keep driving north. I mean, I just had to work my way from the north to the east somehow and just kind of figure out, because I knew I had to get to the east and I was headed north, and I knew I was good north. So anyway, so I wrapped all the way around, got on the interstate, got off on the exit where I needed to get off on, and I knew that exit was okay because there was truck stops right there. Well, the truck stops were to the left after you get off the interstate, and the business I had to go to was to the right, and it wasn't very far to the right. It was only like quarter mile. So even if that was a no truck zone, that was the only route that I could get there because there wasn't anything else on my maps. So as soon as I turned right, my GPS started screaming at me that I was in a no truck zone, because it was a no truck zone 2 miles up the road, or, well, it wasn't even that, it was like a mile up the road, and the business I had to get to was at like 0.9 miles. I mean, it was right there, right before the no truck zone. Like when I left the business, you have to turn right to leave, you know, because if you turn left, you're going to be in the no truck zone. So that's an instance where my GPS ran me wrong, and I just got to figure that shit out. You can't trust your GPS 100%. You know, I've had it do that to me a handful of times. You know, run me up to, want me to take a turn, and I see that it's a no truck zone. I know the road I'm on is fine, so I just keep driving and kind of working out where I need to go while I'm driving, or get to a safe spot where I pulled over, because like I said, I'm already on this road. I already know it's right. I just got to figure out the road I need to take. And a lot of times my GPS will detect that I didn't make my turn, and it will automatically update and take me the route that I need to go, kind of like a secondary route, I guess. And then one more quick story about my GPS leading me wrong, or trying to lead me wrong. I came upon a road closed and had to take a detour. Well, the detour was pretty poorly marked, and when I took my right to go on the detour, my GPS kept wanting me to turn around, and it kept wanting me to, you know, turn left on this street, turn right on that street, and they were neighborhoods, and I knew my truck doesn't fit. You know, even though they weren't a no truck area, my truck doesn't fit there, so there's no way. It's not good business. I'd get trapped up in there, or run over a sign, or hit a car, something. So I knew, once again, the road that I was driving on, I was headed west, and which is a direction that I needed to be heading, and I knew that that was good, because I was already on that road and I could see ahead. So what I did was I pulled over where it was safe, zoomed out on my map on my GPS, and saw that the road I was on hooked up with another major road at a major intersection, and then if I turned right on that major intersection, then that hooked me up with the interstate. So seems simple enough, right? So I keep going, and my GPS starts yelling at me that I'm entering a no truck zone. Well, it wasn't. There was no truck signs. What happened was, at that major intersection, trucks have to turn either right or left, because past that intersection was a no truck zone. So my GPS, for whatever reason, thought that this was a no truck zone. But anyway, so it wasn't, and I worked it out. But like I said, you can't trust your GPS 100%. I use it as a tool to get around, even though I could totally use my map book. I really could. I know how to read a map. I've known how to read a map for a long time. Like I said, the only problems I really had with trip planning was making the correct marks on my paper logs. So I could read a map no problem, but it is a lot easier, and I may not be as efficient as my GPS. To be honest with you, I'd probably drive 25 miles out of my way to stay on major interstates than I would to do a quick crossover on a U.S. highway. If I was making those decisions, because it just seems easier. And but my GPS, like I said, it typically runs me good, but you still got to watch out for it. So what I have for GPS is the Rand McNally Overdrive 7.2. I figured I would buy this one because they are the ones that wrote the book, and I figured they would be the most accurate. Like I said, even this one has ran me some problems in the past, and yeah, I mean, and will in the future. You know, it's not perfect, and I know it's not perfect. What I like about this GPS is I can hook it to the hotspot on my cell phone, and I can, there's no weather around here, but I'm gonna have to zoom out, and I can actually see weather. And you can see I got the green areas, you know, where there's snow and all that. I'm the red truck way over here in Virginia. Up there is some snow and rain and all that. And I've used this to drive around weather. I was in Illinois one time driving to, I had just taken a load down to, I think Tulsa or Springfield. I think it was Springfield, Missouri. And I called the guy and told him, I said, hey, I'm going to get stuck up in the snowstorm because I was headed directly south into it. And it was a bad storm. They were going to be having bad weather. And I knew that trucks were already having to stop in it just south of me. And I called him and told him I was going to probably have to stop for at least a day, maybe a day and a half. He seemed kind of bummed about that because I couldn't get his bricks to him or his blocks to him. And he told me that a lot of people have been canceling on him, but it wasn't even for the weather. They was canceling on him for other reasons. And he asked if there was any way that I could get those blocks to him. The company I worked with before was very customer service oriented. I looked at my map. What I did was I just zoomed out, just like this, and I could see where the weather was. And I could see that if I drove a little bit north, then I could go around the weather on I-80, and then dip down, take I-80 to like I-35, and take I-35 down to, I think that's what I did. Let me see, I'm gonna make sure that I don't want to be talking about anything that's not accurate. But yeah, it looked like I took like I-80 over to like 35, and then went down to through Kansas City, down into Joplin. That's where I was going. Joplin, not Springfield. Down to Joplin, Missouri. And that took me around the bad weather. I got a little bit of it, but I was able to definitely make the delivery on time, and he was very thankful for that. But that took me about, gosh, 75 to 100 miles out of my way. But you know, and the owner of the company and the broker that we work with, they don't mind, you know, doing that. And I guess the broker really doesn't have any say in it since he doesn't pay for the fuel. But the owner of the company, he was okay with me burning the extra fuel, because even if I'm down with a load, that means that's another day that I can't get a load. So he'd rather me drive 100 miles out of my way to get that load off my back, so I could go pick up another load and keep the wheels turning. Because if the wheels ain't turning, you ain't earning. So anyway, so on this GPS, you have the weather, but it also has options to show fuel stops and traffic. Honestly, I never use those. If I come up on traffic, I just deal with it. I only ever have used the weather, and usually it's off. Like if I'm just trying to figure out how to get around a big storm, then I'll bring that weather up, but usually that's off. And like I said, you have to have a hotspot or an internet connection for that feature. So I have a hotspot on my phone, on my cell phone plan. So I hook my phone, basically hook my phone up to my GPS for that option. But anyway, so to get around, so I hit the GPS button, and it brings up my history, and then it also has bookmarks that I have in here. For frequent places that I go. So I'll do my punch in my address, and then it brings up that screen, tell me that this one I'm physically, I think this miles is miles away. The 92, I think that's as the crow flies. I don't think it's on roads, because as you can see when I select that, and it also gives me a prompt whether I'm empty or loaded, because that can be important, because you may not be able to go over some bridges loaded, but you can go over them empty. So it will. So right now I am loaded, and then it calculates my route, and it brings me up that and kind of gives me a split screen showing the general route that it wants me to take. But then there's an option for alternate routes. I click the alternate route button, and it brings up the other alternate route. I click that button, and it gives me the alternate route and how different it is. And that looks way different. I don't know why I would want to do that, but if I had to avoid some road closure that I knew about or traffic or something like that, then maybe that would be able to come in handy. So I would stay with that route because that looks like to be the most direct route. I press start, and then it tells me where I'm at, how many miles, how many hours that I have to go. And if I press this button here, it tells me that what city, county, and state I'm in. But you can, not that one. That brings up a whole bunch of different other information. If I press the city, county, and state, that's what it is. It will change. It can change to the road I'm on. There's the U.S. highway, tells me what city I'm on. But what I like is I like it to have the city, the county, and the state in there. So that's my GPS. This is what it looks like zoomed out. So it looks like I'll be able to stay on some pretty good interstate all the way to my stop. Looks pretty direct, and it'll take me all the way up to my stop. But like I said, it's just a tool. It's not a it's nothing that should be trusted 100% of the time. It just shouldn't. It's going to make mistakes. It actually had a very common mistake when I first got it, and it was so bad that I called Rand McNally, and they said that they were aware of it and they were repairing it, making updates and fixing it, and they ultimately did. And another thing about this GPS, and I'm not sure about the other ones, Garmin I know is a very popular one, but I take it home with me where I can hook it up to my Wi-Fi at home, and it has updates for me to download, and I'll keep it up to date so that way it's just always at its peak, even though its peak is not 100%. Something else I like about this feature, about this one, I don't know if the other ones do it or not, but if I'm just want to search specific things in my area, I'll press the where to window, and then it brings up this screen, and I have travel centers, parking, truck services, cat scales, and way stations. Just way and border, I guess. But I've used the cat scale one before because if you just try to figure out a cat scale along your route, the nearest cat scale may be 50 miles along your route. But if you just select a cat scale, it will just tell you the closest cat scales no matter where they're at. And as you can see, there's one at Love's 2.8 miles away. And it may not be on my route, but it might be quicker to go to that one versus 100 miles away. So I do like that feature. If I wanted to search travel centers, I hit the travel center selection, and it gives me the travel centers that's closest. Like I said, they may not be on my route, but they are the closest. Looks like all of these were actually on my route, and I use that function quite a bit. So that's the GPS. Like I said, don't trust it 100%, but definitely use it as a tool if you need to. I actually posted a kind of a funny video one time because I had to drive down what was essentially a path, and it was me, my boss, and another owner-operator that we ran with at my previous company, and we all just kind of convoyed down. Well, we all convoyed down, and honestly, had I been by myself, I would have been questioning whether or not I put myself in a bad spot, because it was definitely just a very narrow dirt road. And in fact, if two trucks came upon each other opposing, it'd be very tight to get by each other. You would definitely be hugging the sides of the road. And to make matters even better, it was raining when we got in, and it was raining, well, it was raining a little bit. It was really raining when we got out. But once we drove down that road, you get to the end of it, and then it opened up into a big power center, where they had all their they had a drop yard for their poles and all that. So sometimes you do got to take flatbed loads for sure down some sketchy ass places, and I've had to do that a few times. I've been out in the middle of fields with my flatbed loads, and yeah, sometimes you just kind of wonder, if you're really supposed to take this $150,000 to $200,000 truck down these roads, because it doesn't look right. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and if you guys like my videos, go ahead and give me a like or a subscribe or whatever, because if this is your first time watching me, I am a retired cop, and I do tell cop stories as well, and talk about cop related things as well. In fact, I think I'm going to make a video later about DUI. I was going to try and incorporate it in this video, but it's gotten to be a little bit long. There was an attorney who has reels online that talks about different topics, and he did one about DUI, and to be honest with you, there's some things I don't agree with him on. He talked about declining to take field sobriety tests. I think that there's a time when, honestly, you should take those, and I'll explain that in my next video. Until then, have a good day.